Well, every time Sideshow's on the show, you know for sure that he's going to be vibing and dancing to that intro music because it's the best.
I can't help it.
Yeah, it's just the best, isn't it?
So good.
I'm just going.
So good.
It just is so good. Welcome to episode 19 of Tactical Crouch. You may think you're at episode 15 because Sideshow is just here. He's back here again. Yiska, no internet in Germany right now. They're just out of internet. It's just gone. Something, yeah. All the routers.
Download some more.
Yeah, all the routers exploded at once or something. So Yiska's not here with us today. But
It's part
Sideshow.
of Angela Merkel's stepping down process. Now that she's left, she's just planning to bring all the infrastructure of Europe down with her, starting with the internet in Germany, and it just crumbles out from there. I'm fleeing as fast as I can, man. I'm so glad that Brexit's happened. People are going to be digging our way, like they're going to be trying to create a real rift between us, not just the English Channel, paddle us away from Europe as fast as we can. It's going down.
Strangely political.
70% of our listeners are from the United States and don't know who Angela Merkel is.
Oh yeah,
unless she's like they think she's the the girl in Rugrats.
Yeah.
And
Angelica
then
Pickles.
and then Brexit. I don't know. I love breakfast foods too. What breakfast?
Is that like the new breakfast joint that's like open up down in the road? Like?
Yeah, Brexit. Have you heard of Brexit?
I think they have like some sick breakfast burritos, dude.
Okay.
Great
All
eggs Benedict, bro.
I get it. Your target audience is American. Let me just use this knife and just take out the frontal lobe, and I'll be right back.
There you go.
All right. Well,
just the quickest lobotomy.
We just made sure to, just draw the clear lines of national division before we start the show.
Very early on.
Lines have been drawn. Yiska's gone. He says he's sorry that his internet isn't as good as it should be. But literally 2-3 hours before the show, Sideshow's like, yo, I can do it.
Coming in with the clutch.
It was Sideshow. It was kind of funny. You were telling us before the show why you decided to come on the show.
The softball
and it wasn't
pitch,
to provide
holy.
the analysts, the analysis that we're hoping for.
Life's been interesting recently. I've been stuck in the. I say stuck. That's maybe unfair to the rest of the people who live in the UK by choice. But I've been over here for Christmas, and I was expecting to be back in the US by now. Getting on with stuff. Annoying Jonathan, who's just over there all on his own. Bless his little heart. So I've just been kind of so bored, in fact, that I've started creating YouTube content again. So life's not going too well. And at that point, I'm getting to like the point now where the only times that I feel motivated to, get ready and shower and look presentable are when I have to actually be on camera. So I've been forcing myself to do YouTube content just so that I have a reason to shower. So today I didn't have a YouTube video to record because I'm delaying the one about Boston that I want to record until the final deadline, just so that I can have some idea of what the hell they're doing with their roster. So today I needed a reason to shower, so I was just scrolling through Twitter like, does anyone want to put this face on camera? Not that it makes much difference, honestly. I could wake up and it might be more presentable than this.
So thanks to Tactical Crouch,
terrible times,
Sideshow,
isn't it?
Yeah. Thanks to Tactical Crouch, Sideshow is showered. So leave that in your 5-star iTunes review. By the way, show smells good, feels good, man. Appreciate it.
Good, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, right. When's the last time you've seen that emote? We've got a lot to talk about though. We're 48 hours away. 48 hours away from season 2 of Overwatch League. Gonna be a good one. But
I better start swimming.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Sideshow, you're not there yet. I know that you haven't been able to say too much about it. You're gonna be involved in Overwatch League this year though.
I hope so. Yes.
ASAP.
Yep.
In his knowledge, he is.
Yes, ASAP. But it'll be interesting to see the beginning of the Overwatch League as well. I'm hyped. Just gonna be watching it from here.
It's really exciting. Like, season 1 obviously is filled with a bunch of firsts because it's season 1, so you don't see a lot of, situations. But in a lot of ways, season 2 is still filled with so many firsts because we're coming from so many new signings, number one, but you're also having to add the new variable of like a lot of these players and teams have now had the experience from season 1 going into season 2, and it's really exciting. We highlighted, I think there's 6 or 7 games that we're going to talk about And as we go throughout the season, we're probably going to highlight a lot of here's the upcoming games, talking about last week's games as well, like, if there's any upsets. And, man, I'm just really excited because there's 7 games. Like, how great is it that there's at least 7 games? There's probably 10 games, but 7 games that I'm like, we have to talk about these. There's like 4 more that I'm like, we probably should talk about these, but we're not going to have time with Sideshow on. And
it's so hard to actually like cover everything now. Like you have 7 games a week, and like, if you want to actually like keep up with any contenders region, like good luck. There's 20 teams that play games.
Utterly nuts. Has anyone actually figured out how many games there are going to be this season? I'm sure this information is publicly available. It's like there's a schedule, but I don't think anyone's really like added them up and seen. I know there's 28 games per team, but I don't think I can quite do the maths on like how that actually adds together.
I'm not even going to attempt it.
But there are nuts amounts of games. Like it's crazy. There's going to be so much to try and piece together.
And John, you mentioned firsts, right? And I didn't mean to cut you off, Sideshow, but quick little factoid. Did you know that the Dallas Fuel and the Shanghai Dragons play both in week 3 and in week 4 of stage 1? They will play repeat games.
That is very weird as well. I was looking at their schedule. It's super strange, but that's just the way that these, there's only so many ways that you can make all of those games happen. And I'm sure they do it with like a pretty highly advanced algorithm that tries to minimize those kind of occasions, but it does lead to some weird stuff. Like the strength of schedule is actually, I don't think when people talked about strength of the schedule last year, I don't think it really factored in that much. Like sometimes you had 2 really strong teams on the same week, and so you had to split your prep time a little bit, but everyone was playing a round robin. This year it really does matter. Like you only played the teams outside your division once.
Right.
And if you get that on a good stage for you, depending on the patch, or a bad stage, that could be the difference between making playoffs or not. Strength of schedule has got to be something that we're like really paying attention to this year when we're thinking about how good people really are.
I'm watching Twitch chat do math right now, and it's
actually horrific. I'm looking at these maths, and they are worse than Volamel at maths, honestly. Just because there are 28 games and there's 20 teams does not mean that they're going to play like 28 times 20, because the games are against each other, so it doesn't work like that.
I think you divide it by 2, or at the end, right?
I wrote an essay to pass Algebra 2, so
or think of it this way: 16 games per week times 5 times 4.
Yo, I don't know.
I don't. It's not important. It is important. It's not important. 200. Everybody divide by 2 by the end. By the way, Pindragon just sent us some bits to say to help find more wonderful pictures of Sideshow, because we've got somebody undercover, Sideshow, who's going deep into your past, going deep into everything that you were in middle school and high school, and they're finding pictures. So
I mean, the unfortunate thing about it is the weird thing when you make friends in esports is that for some reason some people in esports still use Facebook, and they'll go and you'll occasionally just get like the occasional time that I use Facebook to get in touch with friends from university, and I don't live anywhere near them, so that's only happening like a couple of times every year. I'll see that I have like friend requests. I'm like, oh, who's that? And it's like, oh, it's Susie. And I'm like, oh, what's going on there? And so I've got like all of these friend requests from different people that I'm never intending to interact with over Facebook anyway. But the unfortunate thing about that is it opens the vaults from like 2009, 2010, where they can find all of these horrific images of me that probably need to be purged for the good of society, but I've never gotten around to it.
10 years ago, I had shoulder length hair. Could you guys believe that?
Really?
Traveling in a band.
Wow, that's crazy.
The skinny jeans, like the Levi. There's like skinny, and then there's like super skinny. Levi super skinny jeans.
You were a bard.
I was, I was just right into the thick of like my like punk rock phase meets like folk phase. It was, man.
So it was like you and Doa on like the metal circuit.
Yeah, it was something else. My college had a band that went around to camps throughout the summer and stuff, and it paid really well, but it wasn't very good. Called The Current. the current.
Nice.
It was also a
cool.
local radio show. I'm like, the least you can do is cross check the names that you give us with the local radio stations, so that we don't have the same name. But they didn't. It's out there. It's good.
That's awesome.
I also acted in a movie that is still on Netflix.
Really?
Still on Netflix.
Hidden talents we're discovering.
This guy just pulling
That's
out
what
the
I'm saying, man. I'm
the
just saying, if
IMDb
somebody
pages.
can find it, it'll be really interesting. But so far, I haven't had anyone from the Overwatch community be able to be like, "Yo, I watched this movie, and you were in it," because it's that bad.
Should we have
even
like a
Netflix
scavenger
like
hunt?
you know how Netflix recommends movies? The movie that I was in is actually a movie that Netflix like doesn't recommend.
Like tries
like,
to tell. It's like
no,
it's like
no.
1 star. Like you don't want to really want to watch this.
Yeah, like there's other things to watch, right? You know, the
Have you seen Game of Thrones? Oh,
Yeah. There's other things more like this than this. Let's just say that. Let's just say that. So,
What a ringing endorsement for your own product.
I mean, I was just along for the ride. You know, in college, you'll try anything once. For me, it was acting in a movie that had budget behind it. It wasn't that good.
Pretty good.
It wasn't that good.
It's an experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was definitely experience. That's for sure. Bench mob your band. All right, let's talk about Overwatch stuff. We've got Overwatch League coming in like 48 hours. 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb. Yeah, that's right. Get out of here. Let's talk. We need
That's
to talk.
actually really good.
It's not bad. You know, at the same time, when only like 12 people have heard of it, and like 9 of those people wrote, acted, directed, or wrote the music for it. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, if it was all of the people who worked on it that ended up rating it, then someone's not rating it very highly, you know?
Yeah, somebody
Like,
who
if
was
you
like
work on
involved with it, or like that was actually the one star was me.
Yeah.
Like, that was not very good. Lead actor sucked, and you need more money. You need more money to do a show like this. Let's talk about Overwatch. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Shut up. Let's talk about Overwatch. And let's first things first, let's talk about the community countdown. Community countdown happened this weekend. Was kind of designed to take place of the Overwatch League preseason. Sideshow, I don't think it did that.
No. It didn't. In fact, I haven't watched any of it because I was actually away when it happened, but I saw the whole like chaos that exploded on Twitter after the fact. And the weirdly, I don't understand the opinion that people have resulted like out of this with. In my opinion, you can fall like broadly speaking in 2 directions. You can either be like, okay, the teams would rather not like scrim and show strategies and stuff like that. So obviously they're gonna mess around and not take it too seriously. Or you can be like, it's a thing for the fans. It's a show match. At the very least, they should be professional enough to play their own roles and give some kind of like entertainment value, not just a complete waste of time for the fans. I can see, reasonably speaking, most sides of that. I'll tell you where I fall down in a bit. But the prevailing opinion seems to have then shifted to being like, Overwatch League told us these were going to be scrims. Why weren't they scrims? It's like they can't control anything. What are they going to do? Pin all the teams down and be like, you must play seriously. Everybody must 100% be trying as hard as they possibly can. Like, why has that been the lashback? I don't understand that.
I don't get what people think scrims are, because if you guys don't remember, there was a lot of rumors in season 1 and even in like 2016 Overwatch where people would just get up mid scrim and just go get a bag of Cheetos, or like just like incoherently feed on purpose because they were tilted. Like,
Smash
if you
the
want
mouse.
scrims, yeah, just smack the mouse debris everywhere, you know, yelling and screaming. Like, if you want, I don't think you really want scrims.
I mean, there's no way in which scrims, like in the most serious sense, would have been possible. And I think that maybe that was like, maybe that gave the fans a bad impression, but like the slightest bit of understanding should have been reasonable to assume that you wouldn't see like real competitive matches right before the season. But I also personally fall down on the side of what I saw from a number of the other commentators, notably not like Monty, but I think I saw Johnny and Bren, and I think Nate tweeted something similar about this as well, where it was like, in my opinion, you are, your job is not just to be as competitive as possible when you're a professional gamer. Like, you also have times at which you are required to be in some form like an entertainer. Like, for example, when you go and do media obligations, like, it would be really unprofessional of you to just sit there and go like, meh, meh, every time they asked you a question or something, you know, or just like role play as if you were a character from a film noir novel. Yeah. Or something like at some point you have obligations that are outside of just trying your best and being the best possible team and getting wins. There is a world outside of that, and part of that world, in my opinion, and I don't set any of the rules, is being professional when it's asked of you to like entertain the fans. Like, if there is some kind of thing like this where it's been advertised as scrims or advertised as some preseason or something like that, I think it reflects badly on the teams to just treat it as a joke. They should be trying to give some kind of entertainment for their fans, like whether that means running strategies you never intend to run in a match, but they're just cool, like trying something weird with a Bastion or, you know, some weird strategy. Fair enough, you're not showing anything, but you're still providing some entertainment value. There's still ways of doing that without showing your hand. And even if you played your real roles, you ain't showing anything. I don't know where this has come from as well. Everyone knows what role everyone's going to be playing. Like, maybe you don't play the exact meta, or you don't play to like your top teamwork, or you don't make the picks that you would, or play the correct comps on the particular map. But you can still play your own roles without giving anything away. Like, nobody is confused and being like, what is this? Kariva's on DPS? Like, everyone knows that he's going to be playing DPS. You're not hiding anything. Like, everyone knows where these players have come from and what they do if they've done any research into them. So I don't buy that for a second, that it's like necessary for these teams to have to play off roles just to hide strategy. Like, it could have been very feasible for these teams to play their normal roles and have, like, you know, a reasonably friendly scrim or try some weird stuff like that. I don't think it would have benefited them outside of the PR, but I think that is part of your job, is to be like that ambassador for the game and be entertainers as well as just being competitors.
I do agree with a lot of what you're saying. I do think, you know, in any competitive facet, whether it be boxing, MMA, like, you have to sell your fight. If you're going, you know, me and Sideshow are going to go duke it out in Madison Square Garden, and we're just, you know, sat there like, we will put on a good show. Like, please cheer for us. Like, nobody's going to want to watch us. Nobody's going to want to buy tickets. Right. So you do kind of amp up
costumes.
Sure. And we trash talk a little bit, and we throw out stupid references, and we get up and throw dollies at a bus. Like, that drives attention, that drives excitement, right? You want to tune into that.
And so I think that's a big thing that they're missing as well. Yeah. Right? Is like that branding aspect has always been something that esports players have been missing. And it's something that organizations should, in my opinion, try to push onto their players. Like, look at this as an opportunity when they're talking to like journalists for media day and stuff. Like, look at this as an opportunity. Like, try and get your story out there. This is sometimes as important to control the narrative as it is to try and turn the narrative via your own play. There's a lot you can do outside the game as an esports player, and only a tiny fraction of that is really getting utilized at the moment. And some of it only by like really intelligent people who've got that outside their wheelhouse. I mean, guys like Jake, right? Like, if all you knew about Jake was what you saw in the game, you wouldn't know the name Jake, really. Like, you wouldn't care. But because he has so much outside of the game, with the branding and the marketing and stuff like that, he's, you know, a name that everybody knows at this point. It's like a staple within competitive Overwatch. So these are the kind of opportunities I think that the players and the teams are missing out on.
You 100% need to be a showman, and it reminds me of like just a quick side tangent. A League of Legends player by the name of Doublelift, right? You probably have heard the name at least once in your life, you know, if you followed esports. His kind of like slogan or his like trademark is like, oh, I'm the best and like everybody's trash. And now he has merch that has like a trash can, and you can buy like a little paperweight that's a trash can. Like, it's so important. And he's also pretty good. So like it kind of increases his legend, and like there's so much that goes into just being a showman. And, you know, of course you're going to catch flack for it. Of course that's going to be a thing, but you'll catch flack for everything. And that's where I kind of almost pivot back into the argument. And I'm like, well, if you want to try and run fun things, don't you kind of run into the same dilemma where it's like people will still criticize you because you're not taking it as seriously as like what the title had semantically proposed, right? If this were supposed to be scrims, why are we playing Symmetra Bastion on, you know, Hollywood A? Like, I don't know where there's a win-win for these teams unless they actually go out there and try to scrim.
Bastion on Hollywood A is not that bad.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like the point of anything like this is to build up hype for the league, and
Yes.
hype for the league isn't just like for the league, it's for the teams, it's for the players. Like those are the people that benefit from people watching. So anything you can do as players to work with the league to build up that hype instead of almost deliberately going against what the intention of it was. Like I don't understand. It seems like they shot themselves in the foot there, even though they don't. There's no lashback, like there's no PR lashback on these teams. It seems like most people are coming down the other way. Like I said, where they're like they shouldn't be expected to show strats. Like it was silly to advertise them as scrim, stuff like that. That's what I've been seeing all over Reddit. But the lashback is going to be less like obvious and more just there wasn't a ton of hype generated, which the players could have created themselves. Like they were given a platform to do something, and they didn't do anything. They turned viewers away, if anything. So a missed opportunity, which isn't bad PR wise immediately, but you know you've missed an opportunity. You haven't shot yourself in the foot like it's become negative, but you've missed out on a potentially hyping up the season, hyping up your matches, making people want to see you even more. There could have been some cool storylines that came out of it, and at the moment, it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, I definitely think more could have been done. Yeah, I don't know. I find it hard to fault the teams to too much of a degree. I completely agree with you. There needs to be a showman aspect throughout all of Overwatch League that I think we are kind of missing. And when that does come out, a lot of people completely want to stamp it out and like throw a code on it and douse it. Like, no, we want like that needs to happen so that people are excited, that rivalries are created, you know, that there is a little bit of bad blood. Who doesn't want to see, you know, the LA Gladiators versus the LA Valiant home in LA with a little bit of bad blood, you know, some words were said on Twitter, like that drives excitement, that drives fans to want to come out and be more excitable. But yeah, I don't know. I still find it hard to fault the players. I think there could have been like a segment, you know, on stream where you get two of the players and maybe they trash talk a little bit and like you can still get it that way. But I think it all was just a little bit rushed and wasn't thought through all the way.
I mean, and again, I don't actually blame the players because I highly doubt that the players are like, I'm not going to actually play competitively, even though my coach has told me to, and this is what the league said to do. I don't think that that's actually what happened.
I don't think it was. Well, I'm not there, right? So I don't have any idea. But it seems from the outside like the communication was all over the place. Like,
exactly.
I don't think team organizations were telling their players to play seriously at all. Like, I don't think the players were revolting. I think there was just a general attitude from all of the teams. Like, why would we play serious? There's no expectation to play serious here. Like,
agreement of like from the league, hey, we're going to be doing this. You're going to be playing each other in, you know, whatever, a celebration of the community and Overwatch League in what's called the community countdown. Here's the formats that you're going to play. And the coaches, I personally think the coaches go, okay, well, we're not going to like expose any strats here. So what do we want to do? And then I feel like coaches probably pivoted to, well, let's just try to make it entertaining.
Yeah.
And I think it probably went a little bit overboard in the sense of like, I think meme.
The issue is viewing it as an obligation versus an opportunity. I think that's what it comes down to. Yeah. Like all of the things that the league tells these teams to do can be viewed in one of two ways: as an obligation, like I must talk to the media, I must engage in these hype videos, I must engage in the social media aspects, and that then can be seen as like a drag, or it can be like an opportunity to make your brand like so much better, to really drive hype for the games, to really put your name out there. And like that's why so many people who are involved in content creation around the scenes and stuff like that always view it as an opportunity. Like I'm going out there all the time, like trying to engage with people, doing interviews with them, getting my name out there, trying to put the storylines that I think are really cool forward. Yeah, but like I'm not doing it out of the goodness of my heart. Like as much as you might think that I really love you, John,
you do though.
I'm also
you do. We've got a special.
I'm also doing it because it's good for you. It's good for your personal brand, and I think that that's a big difference. Is like esports. I think traditional sports understands this in a lot of ways.
Yes.
But I also think that journalism and obligations are much more pushy for traditional sports. Like esports players have it really easy. So if you can shift that mindset from being obligation to opportunity, I think you can really like unlock a lot of cool hype moments for these teams, and it won't feel like such a grind. It'll feel like there's just cool stuff happening over and over, like platforms are just being offered.
I do want to move on because yes, I think that this was a giant missed opportunity. I think by Overwatch League, I think for the community, I think by the teams, I think by the individual players. We could probably go around all day about what could have been done differently, whose fault was it for communication in the end. Community countdown wasn't great. I highly doubt that we'll ever see anything like this organized again, at least with how it was organized this year. And you know what? Overwatch League, for me, they get a pass. But that's your one Overwatch League.
One mulligan.
Nate. No, I'm just kidding. It's not Nate. It's not.
Oh, relax.
I didn't.
Can't say that.
That's why he blocks us. No, I'm just kidding. He doesn't block us. He follows us, actually. Oh, crap. Editing it out right now. Editing it out.
That was one of the scariest moments for me, actually. It was when I used to run a podcast called, it was before Through the Grapevine. It was called the 12 O'Clock News with me, Harsha, and someone called Sammy Face. And after doing like 10 episodes or something like this, I got followed on Twitter by Nate Nanzer, and I was like, shut it down.
If he follows it, at that point, he's probably listened to it.
Yes, and I think also he just likes to have some kind of idea of what's going on around the scene. It's more of like a scouting thing. I don't think he's really like getting ready to call the squad in.
It's true. He's like, all right, guys, that's enough. You've had enough.
He's on the list now.
You're done.
Yeah. I've never heard of him doing that.
Yeah, exactly. You're done at this point. Okay, let's talk about a few things though. So we do need to talk about Overwatch League Season 2. Let's remind the folks at home. Some stuff has changed from last season, but ultimately, I would say pretty overall kind of the same from last season. You've got 4 or 5 week stages, each stage rotating map pool, no problem. Each team plays 7 matches per stage over 5 weeks. So this is different, whereas what was it last year? It was 2. Each team played.
I think he played 10 games.
Yeah, you played 10
games,
5 weeks. So 2 per week. Right?
Yeah. Was there one? Yes. Yeah, it was. Yeah, because that meant there was one team that you didn't play agast every stage.
Exactly.
That's
There's one team that you didn't play against, and therefore strength of schedule was the biggest conversation for some reason. Well, look at it now. 4 map sets with a tiebreaker if you go 2-2. Top 8 go to stage playoffs based on the number of wins first, map differential second. Best of 5 with grand finals best of 7 for both stage and season playoffs. Season playoffs is kind of interesting, though, something that's new this year. Top team in each division plus the next 4 teams, regardless of division, qualify for playoffs. So that gives you your top 6. And then teams 7 through 12 get to jockey it out a little bit. And top 2 teams from that, whatever that playoff tournament, mini tournament looks like, qualify for playoffs as well. So 8. And double elimination in this season playoffs. 3.5 million split among the playoff teams, with first place winning $1.1 million per player. I'm just kidding. Not per player, per team.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's a little bit of cheddar there. So that's kind of the rundown. Sideshow, for you, anything that like really sticks out as a difference, like format wise, that you think is really important to highlight?
Yeah, I think 2 things. One, the play-in for the playoffs. I think that's the biggest change for the entire season, honestly. Well, apart from the fact that there's like less games throughout the stage, and you only play against people, once outside your division. That's pretty massive. But the playoffs is a massive thing, I think. So for the teams that are 7th to 12th, they'll get an opportunity to play for those final 2 spots in the playoffs, the 7th and 8th seeds. And that means that if you're a team that's peaking towards the end, like the Dallas Fuel were in stage 4, you're going to make playoffs, which is a massive change, really, because it puts so much more weight on whatever that final patch is, whatever is going on in stage 4. It means it really means that the beginning stages are important, yes, but less important than peaking late on in the season. Because not only do you want to perform well in playoffs, but you've even got an opportunity to get in there if you finish in 12th, which is like less than average throughout the rest of the season. So that's a huge, big deal. That means that even when we would have been writing teams off, halfway through the season, it means that there's still a huge swath of teams that are still going to be in the race.
Yeah. Lots of players. Even the lower half players, Houston Outlaws, you can make it. Just kidding.
Yeah, I suppose.
Settle down, Houston. It's a joke. Okay. I love you guys.
The roasting of a lifetime.
Yeah, it's true. You should start a podcast, and then you can roast me all you want.
The other big thing actually as well is the double elimination format, I think, because I don't know about you guys, but I've always loved watching double elimination tournaments. Like the runbacks through the lower bracket and the way that you can have things, have storylines set up in that sense. You get little rematches, you get lots of different matches as well. So you get much more like mixture between the playoff teams, so you can see how they all match up rather than just happening to get a lucky draw through a bracket. So I think double elimination's a really cool way. I think it's the best way of doing it. The only thing that double elimination runs into is what do you do in the finals? Because you have one team that's made it through the upper bracket and one team that's lost once. But I am actually not sure what they're doing.
I don't know how you give the winner's bracket finalist an advantage. Is it a one game up? I think if I had to guess, they're probably doing bracket resets.
I don't think they will do that. I think they'll just do a grand final that's longer than the others. I think they'll do it. So the problem with bracket resets is that you don't know how long a game's going to be, so it falls into the same trap that we had in 2018 for the grand finals, where you come in on that final day and it's full of and you either could have an insane day, like everyone's paid the tickets, place is maxed out, 11,000 people waiting to see what happens. It could last like 7 hours, be an absolute slugfest. Philadelphia could come back, but unfortunately they just lose, and that's it. The day's over at like 3 p.m. So unfortunately, bracket resets really fall into that trap, I think. And any other thing like a one map advantage still to me feels really sour in the moment. So I just prefer to have one big event, and as long as you make that one game big enough, I feel like you get the variance good enough so that the team that should win wins.
Bring in DJ Khaled.
No, please.
Just bring him in, put him on stage, give him some Air Jordans, and have him yell into a microphone.
Another one.
Another one.
I definitely agree that you should have like a long final to kind of like cap on who is the best at this moment. But how do you give the team that has, gone undefeated any kind of like merit in saying like, hey, since you've done this, you get like map picks, you get like a veto of some sort. Like, how do you really give that team an advantage for being not the loser? Because if that's the case, then I can just make a loser's bracket running if it's a little bit easier.
How do you feel about teams having to win twice?
Well,
like this happened in Hearthstone. So if you came in from the loser bracket and played the winner from the winner bracket, you would have to beat them in like
that's a bracket reset. That's what we were saying. So but my problem with that is it means that you can either play 1 or 2 games on that day, so you really don't know what's going into it in scheduling. But my thing about double elimination is I think there's very reasonable ways of giving that team an advantage based on map selection and scheduling. And also I think that people run into the trap. So for example, with the scheduling stuff, it'd be like, you've had to play a lot more games if you've gone through the losers bracket. You're going to be more tired. The team that stood in the winners final has had chance to see like all of those games and review the footage and be chilled out, ready for the final meetup again. So you've got an advantage in that sense. And you can also do it in terms of map pick. But the big fallacy I think that I see people run into with this quite a lot is the idea that a team can just make a run through the losers bracket. Like the risk of dropping out when you go into losers is so phenomenal that it's always an advantage to try and make it through winners. Like there is no situation in which you would want to lose the winners final to go into the losers final to get it back into the grand final. Like the chance of just losing that losers final and dropping out is such a big risk that's the big incentive to make it to the grand final. Just
the safety net.
Yeah, the safety net of not having to go through the losers bracket final. So I think that's the thing that people tend to skip when they talk about this, is that you've already had your advantage. Like you were good enough to just make it here without being threatened that you were going to go out at any time.
Well, so
you had less opportunity to be
that's
eliminated.
kind of the thing is like at the end of the day, Overwatch differs in a lot of games in the sense that going through the winners bracket is such an advantage as is. It's like, it just is. You see less opponents. You get so much more footage to be able to watch.
Okay, I'll play devil's advocate just for a second, and this
course
just
you
could be
will.
it
Oh
could
my
be
God.
completely
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
outlier here,
Yeah.
but could you not say this is very analogous to last season's playoffs where we had both, what was it, New York and Valiant had the buys and they didn't adapt to the meta quick enough? In that same sense, they could have, scouted early and they got a chance to see their opponent play in the quarterfinals, and they still kind of lost. Now, again, that could just be completely
How
the
much of
outlier.
that has to do with the fact that you what's the right way to put this? How much of that has to do with the fact that just like overall your team couldn't adapt to a meta versus being able to scout other teams? Like I can watch goats all day long. It doesn't mean I'm going to be able to beat it.
100%. Could just be bad style for you. Could be a bad meta. Maybe, there was a lack of like serious practice. There's a lot of things that go into it. But I just find it interesting that both teams failed. And, could this happen again?
Yeah, I think
I don't know.
The argument that people normally go to there, like the thing that I think you're alluding to as well, is like the idea of being hot or like getting warm or whatever.
Exactly,
where you've had a chance to play against other teams and you've tested out certain things and you know what actually works in a match setting. But when you're going on these big runs through the losers bracket, like I think that has more a concept when you're like getting a buy into the semifinals because you're coming in there cold, but you've already done like the whole tournament to get to the winners final.
Yes,
I don't think a team should cool off between the winners final and the grand final unless you're playing something like fighting games where it's all on you and you need that time to be able to get like fluid with your movement. Overwatch is not such a fast-paced game. People normally think of it as fast-paced, but it's not compared to fighting games. It's not that fast-paced to the point where you need to be like really warm in order to come in. If anything, having played like a really long match just beforehand, I think is a disadvantage. So I personally don't see that much.
Yeah, it's actually there's just as much Overwatch that's fatiguing going from match to match as there is from being warm and hot. Yeah. All right. So that's what's going on with the format for season 2. As you can tell, we're already discussing end of season playoffs. So there goes that episode. We're just gonna be off that week, I guess. Let's talk about this week though. We've got a lot of great matches this week. They're starting off hot. We're not gonna talk about every match. We just don't have time. Some of them just aren't that important or interesting. We're gonna leap over some and spend more in-depth time with others. So Overwatch League is going to start on Thursday, and we're going to open up the season with the Philadelphia Fusion and the London Spitfire. The grand
fancy
rematch.
Graphic.
Thank
I
you.
like it.
Yes.
It works.
We pay them the big bucks. Well,
It's true.
not really.
It's true. Yeah, the literally these subs and the follows. That's how we get paid on this show. Anyways, Fusion versus Spitfire here. The grand rematch. We're starting it off hot in this one. Man, this is going to be exciting. Josh, I want to know, who do you have picked to win number 1, the first match? Do you think that the Fusion
Do you want to know where my brain goes, or where my it's not really my heart, like my gut.
Yeah.
It's like my brain and my gut are very in opposite situations.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, seriously. Because the problem is I've been listening to teams. That's always a problem. It really is. It's always a problem because when you start listening to teams and you listen about like, oh, who's hot right now, who's doing well in scrims, like, oh, this team's done like really well, oh, this team isn't doing so well. But they never explain themselves properly because they don't know how to talk. They just know how to click buttons and play video games. So you end up getting properly mixed up. So I've gone with my brain on the Winston's Lab prediction site, and I've put in like a 55% for London because I think that we don't really know too much about these teams. Like I would consider London the favorite. I think you should reasonably consider them the favorite. But I still think there's like a fairly good chance of an upset. At the same time, my gut is saying Philadelphia Fusion might be able to take this because everything that I've heard from like the interviews and oversight and people talking is that Philly are actually really good with tanks recently, and Carpe on Zarya and EQ on Brigitte, and then if you have to switch to like DPS stuff, you've got 2 of the best DPS players in the entire league. Like my gut is saying maybe Philly's just going to come out and really... Oh, and then people are also saying that London haven't really got up to speed with this meta quite yet. Like they're not looking like one of the best teams. So all the behind the scenes stuff seems to indicate that my brain is wrong, and like all of our reasonable expectations based on prior evidence, too much shifting has just happened, and we should like not be too surprised if Philly win. But I'm still going with like 55% for London because, I've learned not to trust behind the scenes reports too much.
I think I am going to try to do the Winston's Lab kind of prediction game, and I encourage everybody that feels like they have a very, very incredibly wrinkly brain to do so as well, because there's a bot out there that everybody just loses to. So if you want to test your brain against the bot, definitely go to Winston's Lab and try that out. But I've kind of got this like 60-40 for Philly. I think that London historically have been pretty slow to adapt to metas, and I think that week 1, week 2, they're going to actually be pretty slow to adapt. The one thing I will say that they do have over of their other teams is that Badosian actually feasibly can flex, which is a kind of a boon for them. I don't know how often we'll be seeing flex supports move to DPS, but again, from stirrings behind the scenes, I think that is going to be meritable.
Fury's pretty decent as well. Honestly.
Exactly. Yes.
Like in theory, London have like such a good roster. They should be.
That's the thing with them. Like they should be so good. I just think they need the time to get up to speed with how things are played, the way you play things. So yeah, I've got this like 60-40.
We already know that it takes them 4 stages to warm up. So
yes, exactly. You win one and then just and then.
So I have London 57-43. So I don't go in increments of 5 because I've got more wrinkles in my brain. More wrinkles.
You got that sick algorithm. Huh?
Yeah,
You're squeaking out the tiny little APO.
Yeah, it's all in min-maxing at the end. I'm gonna beat this Eden bot this year.
There you go.
And here's the thing, right? So I think Fusion has a few things going for them. I think that they perform really well in high stakes matches, even when they don't really have business in doing so. Sure. Like I think that definitely plays into their favor. But I believe in Coach 815. I believe Guard and Krillin are going to give them some of that extra depth that they need. I think that they can adapt better to the meta than I think we're being led on to. And Fury and Gesture still just set the gold standard for
the other thing that always gets me is like when people say London are having difficulty adapting to the meta, which was what Ark said on Oversight to give anybody the source behind this comment. He's probably saying that in the context of London being like supposed world beaters. So if London, if he thinks London are like should be up there, but they're actually down there, he might be like, London aren't as good as you think. Whereas if everyone expects Philly to be here, but he's like, no, Philly are really good with tanks. They're like here. Like the teams could still be even. It's just that he's like trying to correct other people's assessments of the team, and so dragging it up or bringing it down. Like I've noticed this so much with the way that people speak about teams. It's like, if you ask them, oh, how good is this team? I've heard they're sick. They'll be like, they're all right. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, how good is this team? Like, I don't think they'll be very good. They're like, no, dude, they're actually pretty good. Like, which team there is better? Like, you would expect the team that they use more positive comments about, right? The team that they said, no, they're actually pretty good. But because you started with the assumption that they were so different. Yes. Exactly. So it's such a risky thing to try and base your predictions off these like inside comments. It's all over the place, but I think the crucial thing to take away is so much of this is still up in the air. It's just unpredictable. It's going to be very entertaining.
And this is one, again, we're talking about, we have three people on the show today who are like, yeah, we think London's going to win, but within 5 to 10%, right? Is really
Volamel thought Philly was going to win.
Yeah, I think Philly's going to win.
That's right. You were saying Philly's going to win because
I'm chaotic neutral in D&D.
All right. Well, Joe hasn't paid attention during the off season, but the rest of us. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
I will say people do sleep on Guard. I think he, along with like Fitz,
I'm excited
Fitz
about
and
Guard,
maybe
man.
Swan, just completely forgotten about that they're actually on these teams. Like people are just like, Guard. When did they sign Guard? When did they sign Fitz? Arhan's still on this team.
Arhan. Well, but it is one of those things, right? To go back and look, and so London Spitfire season 1. You look at that roster and you go, cool, yeah, those are starting players on any any roster
yeah,
in
yeah.
Overwatch League. And so when they sign new players, it's really easy to go, oh, here's the 6 from last year, and then here's the people that they bought to like fill their place. It might not be that way this year.
Mhm.
It might not. I don't know. Especially with GOATs, especially with, I mean, who knows what's kind of going on here, but yeah.
I want to see what they look like on Route 66.8. I think they could pull out some memes, and that'll be fun.
Route 66.8 is a meme.
That is a meme.
Shortly after on Thursday, we've got NYXL versus Uprising. We're not going to talk about that too in depth, but Color Hex reminder is out for 2 games for boosting.
And Gamsu.
What is going on with Boston? I'm about to do a video on
we
it,
didn't
man,
talk
and I just
about Boston. We didn't
What are
talk
they
about
doing?
Boston. So Gamsu's gone from Boston.
Reportedly.
Here is my note for later on for a Boston thing. I go, the Uprising seem to be out to prove the fact that they can't make a bunch of that they can make a bunch of decisions that don't make sense and still win.
No, it's a business here. Huck is the flyest businessman you've ever seen. He's just wheeling and dealing, girl stealing. I don't remember the rest of the quote. Whatever. Like, he's not in to win anything. He's just here to collect fat stacks.
And I mean,
It's so
I
bad.
respect that. I respect that. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, to a degree. Yes, you kind of have to. But then you look at the competition, you're like, Boston, man, I don't know.
If
I just
you're
don't
making-
understand what is even slightly happening with this team, right? Because my approach, if I was a man who owns a brain and was running this team, I would say, okay, stick with your core 4, stick with Gamsu, stick with Aim God, Kellex. Who's the other guy? Who are them? Oh, no, it's of course.
Exactly.
And then,
Welcome to the Boston Uprising. Who's the other guy? Yeah.
And then you want to try and find like who's the best out of Blase and Color Hex and add another like sick hit scan player who can handle like Zarya and stuff like that alongside it. Instead, just madness is occurring. No intent, presumably, to sign another player. There doesn't seem to be any whispers about this. No rumors about them signing a new player, even though Color Hex is out. So what are they going to do? I think the only solution is that they're going to run Alamo on Brigitte or something and just have like
they're just strict traditional goats.
And then they can't
not going to
flex
be any
at all.
flex. Yes.
And that means, like, even if you're facing that quad DPS kind of like lineup. Okay, drop my mic.
Sorry, audio listeners. I'm not editing that out.
You can't counter it by going like Brig McCree or anything because you just don't have. Oh, I suppose you still could actually because you have the 3 supports there, but it limits you so much, man.
Yes.
It's brutal, and I don't understand what their solution is supposed to be to this.
I feel like
It's so confusing.
they could be kind of like the San Francisco of season 2, where like weirdly enough they're gonna have to like sack season 1 and season 2. I think if I had to guess, they'll probably bring Fusions to the main lineup and really start to try and develop him into being like a decent caller, which we've seen him to be on British Hurricane. But yeah, I do think they need some help in the DPS department, and we might see that mid stage 1 or maybe even late stage 1
I don't think
going into
Fusion,
season
I don't think Fusions is here yet. If I remember correctly.
he might not be.
I think they'll just run with Axiom early on because the guy's
Probably,
actually pretty
yeah.
decent. But it's the DPS stuff that confuses me because literally Color Hex is not available for the first 2, maybe 3 games.
Yeah,
I'm not
2
sure.
games.
Two
2
games.
games.
First 2 games.
He's a
So what? You're
booster.
just gonna just throw him away? I mean, the
Yep.
first game's against NYXL. Fair enough. You can throw that away.
It's already a throwaway. Yeah, it
I've got
doesn't
that.
matter who you field there.
I've literally got that at a 95-5 because
over the
and
big plays.
and I think that's reasonable, right? Would I expect the Boston Uprising in their current state, where they've like just brought in Axiom and don't have Color Hex, to win more than 1 out of 20 games against NYXL? No, I would not. Therefore, 5% chance.
Yeah. I've got
Somewhere Eden is
85-15.
shuddering.
So I mean, I never go above 90. Never go above 90. But yeah. So anyways, NYXL versus Uprising is going up next. Let's talk though about Dynasty Gladiators. I'm so excited about this match. This
one's a toughie. I do have to say.
Ripa is out 5 games for throwing a toxicity. So he'd be a
He's out
great
5 games.
5 games. He'd be a great addition to
so
this
good.
show with that.
I
with
did
that
not
line.
read that
I
correctly.
feel like that should be his Twitter bio. Out 5 games for throwing in toxicity.
He got slammed more than the boosters.
For real,
Man.
Dude,
what did you have to? What did you
here's the
say
thing,
to
man.
have to get
you
that?
can try to make a dime, man, but once you're a jerk, you're out.
Yes.
So good.
It's so Joe, I'm gonna make you go first on this one here. Dynasty versus Gladiators. I believe we all had them, both Dynasty and Gladiators, ranked pretty high. I don't have your power rankings right by me, but I believe we had them all in the like top 4 to 8 range. Am I wrong for you for Gladiators or a Dynasty?
I think I had Gladiators throughout the season performing on average better than Seoul, just because I don't think that Seoul have.
Right. I think we all had Seoul higher. I'm just
No, I think I have Gladiators like top 4. Yeah,
I think
I have like Gladiators like top 5. I think, but yeah, this match is going to be rough because it is early on in the season. Both teams have some gelling to do. You know, we've just added Roar and Decay to the lineup. I still have questions about how appropriately it is to weight the flexibility of your flex tank. And we've seen Void be very successful in the Zarya, but how important is it to have your flex tank able to move to DPS, something like a Pharah, something like a Sombra, something that you're not going to have to sacrifice your Zarya's personal charge as well as her ult charge in swapping and moving like mass amounts of your roster around and swapping heroes on certain maps. I think is going to be a big quandary for teams. And then you've got Seoul. It depends on who they run. Who are they fielding? Is Fitz playing? Is Fisher playing? I don't know. I think, again, Sideshow has a pretty good take on this. I do have to agree that I'd like to see Marvel play. I think it's just the safest option. Is it the most explosive option? No, I don't think so. But I think.
Does anyone know what Fitz is going to be playing as well?
I've heard he's playing everything.
Wherever he fits.
Last I heard, he was playing just wherever. Yeah, funny. I like that.
Yeah, wherever he fits. There you go. Lulz in the chat, please. Everybody.
It's about all I add to this show, by the way.
I think
puns.
Simper Turtle has a good point in the chat that I'd forgotten about, actually, is that Decay isn't available until the 27th of February. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. For the first couple of weeks, Decay is not even 18. And I think the Gladiators, everybody had them up there, but didn't have great justifications for why they were up there. When I put Gladiators at 5th, I was kind of like, I can't justify any other teams being up there. Mm-hmm. So Gladiators are just kind of
the process of elimination. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's still a lot for Gladiators to really prove. It's not like they're up there by virtue of everybody thinking they're going to be some kind of monster team. I think there's still a lot of work for Gladiators to do. And that's assuming that Decay is going to be in and playing really well alongside the Surefour or Hydration. Mm-hmm. That's assuming that Raw can be a really competent player, assuming that Ripper can maybe add something to the team. So I would normally go with the Seoul Dynasty for this match, and I have just by a small edge. But I think there's so much potential for Seoul to just be all over the place. I don't have a good read on Seoul because I've no idea what their coaches are planning to do with this team. If over the course of the first couple of weeks I like what I'm seeing from Seoul, I could be really high on them. Like, I think they've got all the pieces they need to actually create a good team. But everyone's so wishy-washy on Seoul because we don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, they had all the pieces last year, right? Like, it was Seoul was one of the top 3 teams to beat. Even through stage 1, you're just like, yeah, Seoul's no problem, not even worried about it. And it just kind of went down from there. I have Gladiators actually 55-45. This one, I do think the Gladiators. I think there's a few things going on for the Gladiators, and I think some of it is. I've talked with a lot of the Gladiators staff and players. They're just all like in a really good mindset, if that makes sense. And sure, we can talk about how important mindset is and whatever, intangibles, blah, 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 blah. But there's just like something like really in control. Like when your head coach goes on Twitter to be like, hey guys, we really appreciate you putting us,
rating us so highly,
top 5, but like we know where we are. Kind of thing. Like we know. Like, it
is kind of a humble brag, but even then I'm just like,
it's Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it's a bit concerning if by that he means they'll get your hopes up.
Yeah.
On the middle of the table.
And again, talking with David, I don't think that was like his intention as much as
Fair
like,
enough.
just like use your brains a little bit. Remember what we said right before the show starts? Use your brains, grow a brain.
Grow a brain, forehead.
They seem like very calculated and controlled for this. They've added 2 of the biggest Korean free agents. Obviously, Decay not playing, but Roar is. But I'm really also interested in how John Galt comes into this situation here.
Yeah.
I think that from a coaching perspective, he might kind of give them the lift that they kind of lacked last year. There was kind of a lot going on from the coaching perspective and not a lot to support it because they had a lot of supporting staff, but not necessarily coaches.
The fact that he's kind of already out there kind of like trying to make a name for himself, like interviewing other coaches, I think is not a strong indicator, but I feel very like, I feel very that positive theme kind of comes back. And I think that's kind of centered around him and, David being, just kind of like upbeat and kind of charming in his own sense. John just feels like he's coming in like wide-eyed, like we're in the big leagues now. Like I'm going to try my hardest kind of feel. And yeah, you do kind of get a little heartwarming, but apparently says Benchmob in the chat, Seoul are still looking for DPS players to pair up with Fleta. Apparently they even trialed Wakid back several times.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
That makes perfect sense to me. That makes perfect sense. Like Munchkin has not looked great. And whenever I model Seoul in my head, I always feel like Fleta is like a safe carry player. Like he's putting out insane numbers, but he's not like the aggressive guy that's going to go out and like make situations turn for your team. But he's like probably one of the best flex DPSs that plays that more passive style for the team. So all you need is some like all aim no brain hit scan dude to put with him and just pair him with a main tank and just go like go forwards. We'll deal with the rest. So as long as they can find something like that, I feel like they should be in a great position. But so yeah. My biggest concern with Seoul is just that they ruin the pieces that they have, because I think you should be able to make a team out of this roster that finishes well within the playoffs. I think the problem is if you mismanage it. And I think the Gladiators, the other thing to consider about them is people had them kind of static in their rankings because they lost Fissure, but they also got Raw, who's like a decent replacement, but probably not quite at the same level of playmaking. And Decay. And if Decay is out of this game, like, isn't that a net loss compared to last season with Fissure?
I do think it is, but I think that they can fill in okay. I think they have serviceable players. Like you could feasibly put Hydration in there in the same sense and still be all right. I think this does come down. This is completely, it feels like Soul's game to lose now that I'm pulling my head out of my rear. Yeah.
So I need to check here on a couple of things. So we had yeah. I'm not ready to say what I was going to say. Well, maybe
good checking. Absolutely check that.
Double check. Don't want to do streamer math.
It's one of those things, dude. I'm already enough of an Overwatch idiot. If I can look it up, I'm looking it up. And no, I don't want to say what I was going to say. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it.
Don't say it then. Don't say it.
Not.
You're under no pressure here.
I'm not. Okay, we're done. I still think Gladiators are going to pull it out, though. I do.
There's a good chance. I'm not.
I have no faith in Seoul, the old guard of Seoul.
That's fair.
Being able to come in and make the adjustments that they've needed to be a team better than the Gladiators. I think they're still a playoff team. Like I put Gladiators slightly ahead of Seoul. Even looking at our power rankings, for me personally, I had Gladiators at 5, Dynasty at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Joe, you had Dynasty at 4, or sorry, Gladiators at 4, Dynasty at 7. Yiska had Gladiators at 4, Dynasty at 8.
And I think I had Gladiators at 5 and Dynasty at like 8 or something. So yeah.
So it's like all difference. Kind of right, but they're all kind of right there in that like 4 to 8.
Sure.
Kind of
that's
range.
true. I think the reason that we had Seoul lower is like there's so much that could go wrong over the course of a season. But but it's unlikely to go wrong like straight off the bat. I think it's more insidious than that. The problems in Seoul.
I think there's a lot that could go around, but also I think when we even look back at season 1, I think a lot of it is like I have a difficult attributing to like, yeah, this is why Seoul didn't make it last season. Like there's just a lot of scenarios where I'm like, you know what? I'm not sure why Fleta was stellar in stage 1 and then all of a sudden fell off. And I'm not sure why in stage 4 they couldn't adapt to goats or whatever. It might be. I just don't. These are two teams that I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah. It is going to be a management thing, but I am going to probably have to give the edge to Seoul. I think it is their game to lose, and it's very possible that they could. So I think I'm going to like 55-45, somewhere in that region for Seoul.
Yeah. But I think you probably also have the fact that Gladiators probably over delivered on what people expected from them in season 1, and Seoul under delivered, and you kind of like want to carry that to season 2. I do, at least. I do.
Yeah. There is a little bit of that sense where, you know, you look at Seoul, like you mentioned, as the old guard that didn't perform, and they've made great signings, but they've also made very questionable signings. It's like, why are we signing two very, very, you know, at least from the outside looking in, very different personalities that could clash within the team. One has a history of being very boisterous, and the other one is a very great caller, but you know, his team, I don't know how much this is accredited to him, but can choke at times. So if you bark him down too much, how much does Jexay actually call, and how successful is he at that? I don't know.
Let's go to the next match, because we still have more matches to talk about, and that's going to be the Shanghai Dragons versus the Hangzhou Sparks. Crystal out for one game here, so keep in mind he will not be in for that one. And of course, Gamsu late added here for Dragons. Yeah? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So much is happening. Lot going on here.
Weird.
Just Sideshow, break it down for us. What are you thinking here? Do you think Gamsu's going to have a big addition or a big impact on the Dragons starting? Like, yeah, what are you thinking?
Well, I don't think so. I think actually that it'll take a while for this team to really get going, the Shanghai Dragons, after what we've heard. So either way you slice this, the loss of Fearless is either immediate due to health problems, in which case the team is scrambling for a replacement, have tried maybe Youngjin and then desperately signed Gamsu. That's one universe that the team seems to be presenting. The other universe is that they thought that Fearless was underperforming, so they were looking for different options, thought that Youngjin was better, but Gamsu happened to be on the market, so they brought him in. Like, any way you slice this, it's not like Shanghai have had a lot of experience playing with whoever's going to be replacing this main tank. It's not like they're going to be well practiced. It's not like things are even going well, because you wouldn't make these changes if things were going well. Or it's a desperate replacement for a guy who's been ill and you've lost all the practice that you would have had. So there is no world in which this is a good move for the Shanghai Dragons, except the world in which Fearless was really bad and it's a long-term improvement. But for this game, I just see it as like, okay, well, Shanghai couldn't catch a break again. I'm sure going to run. This is the warning now for everybody in Twitch chat that has a Twitter account and follows, you know, esports media sites. Be prepared for the 41-0 memes, because it's probably going to happen. I think Spark, if you listen to pundits and experts talk about this team, and everybody can't shut up about talking about how good they are. And yes, I'm actually super interested to see what the hype is about with this team. I think they were, you know, good. They built the team. They picked through the contenders, kind of you know, mid-shelf talent, and they've picked out some diamonds in the rough that I've been really excited about for a long time, specifically like Godsby and No Smite, IDK, for instance. You know, those are really good players, like specifically on certain roles and how they apply to goats in this kind of tank-centric kind of metagame. It'll be interesting. But yeah, I think this is very clearly a Spark win. Yeah, which is unfortunate for the Shanghai Dragons as well, that they've not been able to come out like swinging with the best possible performance early on. And I think also that just this meta doesn't really favor this team. Like, they don't seem to be a team that. I mean, do you know who would like play some insane Zarya for the team? Like presumably DM, and then they've got. I mean, Ding on.
That's the question. It's like
Ding on
you
maybe-
want to put Giguri in so that she can flex, back to that Zarya, even though she's been on the record saying like, nah, Zarya is not like for me much anymore. I'm like a diva girl now. Like, I don't know. But that still like adds a big question mark. And like, okay, well, like, how does this roster look? What roster are they going to field? Is it going to be kind of a Boston thing where they're just like, yeah, we're just going to play goats and we're just going to be good at it?
I think this team is just going to be better in different metas, honestly.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I just want to see them in a different meta. Like, I want to see Ding and DM really unleash as like a DPS duo. I think that's where they're going to have the most success. Yep. Tank metas, I don't think it's really Shanghai Dragons' jam. And I think that, especially with Fearless disappearing and reportedly being placed by Gamsu, I think this is an unfortunate one. What really interests me is why the Hangzhou Spark are so good. Because
yes, exactly.
All we've heard from everybody is like these guys are incredible, and like IDK, I've been hot on for a long time. Mm-hmm. I thought this guy was incredible, like when he was playing back with the Freaks Blue. So that doesn't surprise me. Flex support, like I don't know, I never really saw that many amazing performances out of Revenge or Baby. Like I could see them being okay. The tank line I thought was pretty solid, like pretty decent. And the DPS is really interesting because I didn't think that Adora was that good, but people seem to be singing his praises. And Bazzi, I thought was like, I guess he's going to just be playing Zarya and then Widowmaker and Tracer, of which Tracer is not that good, but the other two is really good.
Really good, yeah.
And then Godspeed's like pretty good. But also the fact that they seem to have amazing teamwork, but they're all communicating in English. Like so much of this doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I must be misunderstanding
Fake
something
news,
because
man.
apparently they're great.
It's like what Apple does. They send out bad rumors to find the leakers. That's what they're doing.
It could be true. But the most surprising thing to me is that their teamwork is so good, but they don't have many players that like. They do have players that play together, of course, because they're an X6 blend with seven coaches and stuff like that. But they've also added in quite a number of different pieces, and just the shift in communication from Korean to English, like. Unless they were really competent at their English skills, I don't understand how they've been able to retain such good teamwork and still be so good. So I'm missing some piece of the puzzle here if they're that good. So I'm really interested to just see them play.
Yep. I think that's going to be the takeaway from that match because I don't think it's going to be close, but it's going to be a small litmus test to see like, okay, what's the hype about? Why is this team so highly touted? Like, what about them is so good? Will we see Gusha? I don't know. Me personally, I don't think so. But
we're going to have a lot of answers, I think, after this this week about kind of where, like, it'll be really interesting to see how our rankings immediately shift after what we see in the first week, right? Because right now it's all kind of based off of paper, and here's how they've been doing in scrims or show matches or what we saw in the Overwatch World Cup or what we saw in Contenders. And now it's like, okay, they're playing on the big stage now. How does that actually affect how they play? Let's move on to Friday. Friday, game number 1, Defiant versus Outlaws. Keep in mind, Neko out 3 games for selling accounts and obstructing an investigation into his selling accounts.
He's a straight baller, just going on Korean forums, calling his former GM a bastard or whatever. Like, this guy just don't give no
respect,
no nothing.
Respect. After that, Rain versus Mayhem. Apply, he's a 2-way player, is going to be out for 2 games there. And then we've got Fuel versus Shock.
That's another one.
Yep, that's the one I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Fuel versus Shock. Violet is out 2 games for boosting. A little bit.
Why do the good ones have to be the bad eggs, man?
Because the good ones also want to get paid.
Gee, I mean, the bad ones literally couldn't boost. That's why they haven't been banned. They were too bad to boost. You'd never hear of Raucous boosting people, would you? That's why he's.
I mean, you're not wrong though.
Just got to throw some shade while I can.
I didn't say it. Oh man, I'm not looking forward to searching through the Outlaws Discord this week. Oh my god.
This match though. That or like the Boston Discord. What? Boston's gonna be amazing. They're gonna sign this player and be incredible.
Yeah, I think if I was a more confident man, I would go with the San Francisco Shock, really like just whipping it out and slapping it all over the Dallas Fuel. But I'm not a confident man, and I I think the San Francisco Shock is still going to be very good, even without Violet. I think CP's a pretty good pick. And I think they're a super flexible team. I think they're going to be able to adapt to whatever meta. I think they've got a good setup for both goats and a DPS kind of situation. I think this is going to be a sick team. The question marks for me come with how much of a rollover do I think the Dallas Fuel are going to be? And I don't think they're going to be like that bad. I think they're not going to be an incredible team, but I think they could still put up enough of a fight that this could go the other way. So I've got a kind of like a slim advantage towards the San Francisco Shock. I just haven't seen enough from Dallas or even heard enough from Dallas to be able to be confident that they're not at the level to contest the San Francisco Shock, because in theory, their coaching has got a lot better. They got RCK to fill that hole. They got Closer as well, who I think is going to do wonders for them in terms of shot calling, because that team was a mess previously. They've got a lot of holes filled now in theory, but it's a bit like Seoul. It's like a worse version of Seoul, which is always what the Dallas Fuel have been, I suppose. You never know quite what they.
That joke will always be too soon, by the way.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think like what people are saying in the chat about OG is perfectly right. Like OG is a fantastic player, and I think this is his season to really come out and prove it. And so in theory, OG and RCK could just like come out swinging and be super good, and then they've got a very solid backline in Closer and Unco. Like they've got some good DPS players as well, some players that are fantastic. Effect can play an Unreal Zarya, so in theory the pieces are there. I think I would still give the edge to the Shock even if Dallas are playing their best, and so maybe a slightly wider edge based on the potential for Dallas to not be as good.
And that's where I landed. Keep in mind, I think all of us on the show, Sideshow, I don't have yours right next to me, but all of us on the show rated Fuel 9th, just across the board. It's the only team we universally agreed on is like, yeah, this is a team that's really close. They're on the fridge. They're definitely improved. Fringe. They're on the fridge. Like little
Got the report card
kids,
up there with the macaroni art.
Yeah, they're on the fridge. They're a team that is definitely going to improve this year, and honestly, they're one of the teams that I think could really surprise, especially with if they do add kind of one or two more things, especially I think at the DPS role. I'm just not confident at all. But the San Francisco Shock, for me, in a lot of ways, are like the younger, more polished mixed roster that the Dallas Fuel were when they were envious, man. Like, back in the day where they've got some different players you've got some from USA, you've got some from EU, you've got some from Korea. They're winning, and, Sideshow, you've been on Overwatch League Daily before, and you've talked about the fact that how, like, some of those wins are like less than legitimate in the sense that they won first, but it was kind of in awkward tournaments and weird times against weird opponents.
Yeah.
But the San Francisco Shock kind of have that kind of same kind of excitement for me. But they're younger. They pulled out all the stops. They've got Striker now. They've got Violet, who won't be playing again. But I'm really excited about Violet being part of the organization. I'm really concerned about the tank play. And I think that if the Fuel steal one here, and I've got it 60-40 for the Shock, I think if the Fuel steal one here, it's because they're going to be able to exploit that tank play. At the same time, Krusty, a lot of people are talking about Krusty as being the coach that he is. Can he bring this brand new stacked coaching staff, take on the Dallas Fuel, who they've made some they've obviously made a lot of changes. People are really excited about the changes they made in the coaching staff too. And you could argue that 80% of the press about Dallas Fuel from season 1 were stolen just by the coaching staff. In so many ways, that was just like such a disappointment. And Dallas Fuel, I think, have obviously approved here. I think they're going to struggle at DPS. I don't know how Dallas can handle goats. I think their core is a team, if you go back to the envious core, which, okay, we're getting 2 years away from it, so maybe I should stop. But their core is a team that is known for innovating, not adapting, and I don't see stage 1 about innovation. I see it as stage 1 being able to play the meta that we have for us. And I don't know if Dallas can do that. 60-40 Shock. Let's go.
Yeah, I do share that same sentiment. I think this is probably like a close 3-1 for Shock. I think Dallas probably comes out and puts on a good performance against one of the potential top teams, specifically in stage 1. But I think people are if I'm judging flex tanks correctly, right? So we need a strong Diva, we need a strong Zarya, and we need we want the benefit of the doubt to be able to use that player to swap onto a DPS like a Sombra, like a Mei, like maybe a Genji, perhaps, right? Dude, NYXL is going to frag. I think he is the key for this team. Good. Absolutely slept on. People don't remember. And to be fair, I think RCK does kind of fall in the same line as well. Started off as a DPS player, now a very, very successful flex tank. But NYXL, man, I think this is where we see him return to some of those weird pocket picks. Could see the Mei, could see a Pharah, could see Genji, don't know. Could see the Sombra, maybe. We'll see. But I think he's going to push them over the edge. Yes, there are some questions at main tank. I will have to say, I think that if we're going to do pounds for pound, I think Dallas has a incredible strong main tank with OGE, whereas San Francisco is Super and Smurf. I want to see a little bit more from them. But I think this is going to be kind of clear for me. I think San Francisco probably takes this and puts a good foot out forward.
There you have it. All right, let's go on to the next one. So here's the thing. So Hunters versus Chengdu Hunter versus Charge will be the final match for Friday. Good luck, guys. Have fun. On Saturday, not a lot of super exciting matches, at least from what I saw. Spitfire versus Eternal. Justice versus NYXL.
I think that one could be interesting.
Spitfire versus Eternal.
Or yes.
Justice versus NYXL.
London, Paris, I think could be very interesting. If I'm evaluating London correctly, and I think they're going to be a little bit slow to adapt, and this is Paris's meta. This is Paris coming out. They can play goats. They've toyed around with some flexibility. At least that's what Cruz is kind of putting out there.
This is the weird thing though for me with Paris is that they say that it's their meta. But who on the team, like, whose meta is that? It's the coach's meta, and like Cloudy and Cruz. But the other pieces of the puzzle, like Soon on Zarya, and like who's playing Brigitte for this team? Is it Nico? Yeah. And then they've got Finzi on Diva. I mean,
if I had to guess, I think Danya's playing Brig. I have a sneaking suspicion.
All right, but if I was to build a European team that I said would like murder people on goats, and I think you definitely could, like some of the European teams, they would murder people on goats. I would pick Cruz. Yeah, sure. Guys, incredible. Pick Cloudy. Yeah, guys look really strong, and like loads of these goats iteration teams that have played really well. I'd pick Nico, but I put him on Diva, and I don't think that he's going to be on Diva. And then I'd pick 3 different people, and I'd probably pick a similar coaching staff, Like, I don't think they have the pieces on paper, maybe to even excel in this method that should be the best for them. I feel like I'm missing something every time people hype up Paris, because I feel like I'm just like...
all EU team too, guys. I do. I want to be like, yeah, look at that EU team. Look at them just crushing the Overwatch League. Just don't see it happening. And I don't think it was kind of the same way what we saw with the Dragons last year. It's like, yes, I want to see an all Chinese team play in Overwatch League. Oh, but that's who they chose. Oops.
I do agree. I'll forfeit that point and say, yes, I do think pound for pound, they don't look like they could actually get anything done. Like, Soon on Zarya,
pound for pound, they don't look like they could get anything done.
I mean, when you compare them to
that
London,
that one's going out on Twitter tomorrow.
Damon, I love you. When you look at that, you can just pound for pound matchup. When you look at London season 1 champions, your heart wants to say London, right? But I think, as much as like the coaching staff is constantly echoed over and over, I think there is something to be said about how South Koreans play goats and how they use specifically their support ultimates. Whereas I think that the Western teams are going to have a slight edge there. So I think just fundamentally, Paris will have a stronger tank-centric composition, whether it's with a Sombra, soon could be playing Sombra. We've seen that in the East quite a bit. Who knows exactly what they could be playing. Is it just standard goats? I hear that's still, pretty popular. I really do think that this is a potential upset. And I'll be bold and say that I think Paris probably beats London here.
Okay. Big stuff. I feel like, I feel like I'm a lot weaker on Paris than quite a number of other people are. And so perhaps I'm underrating these players and what they can achieve. Or perhaps I'm just overrating the aspect of individual talent. And just assuming that London will be able to get their stuff together. I think I would be very surprised if Paris are able to consistently put up performances like that throughout the season. I'd be like, really.
That's where I draw troubles. Is throughout the season can they adapt?
I can see a universe in which they sneak a win off. I think this is the best time to play London.
Yes,
right? I think this is easily their best time to play London. I think it's unlikely. I would personally consider them the underdogs, but I can see a world in which they win. Mm-hmm. I would be completely and utterly wrong in my judgment of them, though, if they're able to keep doing that consecutively, or even are able then to finish mid-table. And I'd personally apologize to the European, but yeah, I just maybe it's my years of hanging around with Monty and Doha and stuff where I've started overrating the Koreans too much. But I still see quite a number of potential holes in this roster that I think they might just get outskilled.
Yeah. So Joe, are you confident in the fact that you put London number 1 for the overall season and have them 0-2 in the first week?
I didn't put London number 1.
Wow.
New York number 1.
Oh yeah, that's right. You put NYXL.
You put London number 2.
I did put number 2 for the entire season. I think that,
but they can't beat Paris
overall,
and they can't beat
not
Philly.
in this meta. No, I don't think so. I think they're very close games. I will say that. I think they're close, but I do think that Philly edges them out, and I think that Paris edges them out. 60-40 both ways.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
It's a season. It's a marathon, baby. We got 4 stages to go through. We've got some sick players. Got some things to learn. Coach 815 gonna kind of a slow burn. We'll see. Okay. I'll be happy to be wrong. I'd like to see a repeat winner. That'd be great. Right.
I don't want to see a repeat winner. I just want to see a London that's number 1 and it can beat a team that you put 13th. How does the number 2 team not beat the number 13? Anyways,
stylistic differences.
All right. Anyways, Justice for versus NYXL. After that, we're not talking about that one. Yeah, that'll be the fastest 40 minutes of Overwatch you've ever watched. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Valiant versus Spark. Crystal will be back for that one. Titans versus Dragons.
Yeah.
Valiant versus Spike could be good.
Could be reasonably interesting.
It was my number 7 pick for games that we were going to talk about this week. It's just kind of.
I think. Yeah.
I don't.
The real interesting thing there is to figure out more about the Spark and why they're good, but also to see where the Valiant are, because we need some kind of measuring stick for the Valiant. Yeah. A lot of people think they're overrated because people expect them to sit somewhere where they did last season. Not second in the overall season, but the 4th, 5th place that they ended up finishing. I think I had them at about 6th. And then people think that they're overrated being sat there because they didn't make many changes. They only brought in Kuki, and they've lost soon and made some changes to their roster. They changed their coaching staff around. But with all the people making changes in the off season, if you really have a core that you're very confident about and you stick to it, we've seen teams like NYXL and London, vaguely try and do this. I don't think that LA Valiant have the same pound for pound skill, but if they've got something out of that, if they've really managed to focus down on a core and make that better, then I don't think that we're overrating the LA Valiant, and I think that they can still be a really good team. But the problem is I was never good at rating the LA Valiant last year either, because they just seem to have very good fundamentals and a good grasp and understanding of the meta and how to play it, and they just have good teamwork. So it's very hard to see that and interpret that without seeing them play. So I think I'll still need a couple of weeks before I know really where I'm at with the Valiant.
Yeah, this feels like the narrative test between how good the expansion teams are as a whole versus the original 12. Whoever kind of takes this really kind of puts a foot forward and says, yes, experience does matter quite a bit, and trusting the system, or there was better talent outside of Overwatch League and we picked it up and here we are. You've heard us on talk shows. You've heard us, through the mouths of all the experts. This is a 2-0 week for us and you've been put on notice. I do agree with you that if there is a system and they trust in it, like there has to be something there, but I don't see it when I look at Kareev and how often he's just role swapping back and forth between like DPS. Is he a flex tank? Is he a flex support? Like what are they doing with that kid? I don't know.
I mean, the interesting thing about this meta is that I think players like that who are on the Zarya, if you can play Zarya and Widowmaker to a high level, you can swap between those two roles. Like when you go over to the DPS, the quad DPS, triple DPS.
Sure.
And so in theory, if he's got a good Zarya on him, like you don't need much else outside of that, perhaps, as that like player. You can be the Zarya player and then you can be the hit scan Widowmaker player and then maybe play a bit of McCree if it was required alongside your Brigitte. I don't know.
It's weird though. You see
this
what I'm
meta
saying?
requires as much flexibility from the Zarya players as
Exactly.
we might expect, but I think that could.
You want that from the diva because you don't want to sacrifice your self charge. You don't want to sacrifice your grav. So if your diva can flex, that's the ideally where you want to be able to move around. So it's like, is Space going to pull out like a pocket widow? Is he going to pull out like a tracer? I don't know. I don't think so. At least Custer doesn't seem like he's going to. I don't know. Doesn't seem too high on.
No, I've seen Custer warming up with the 1v1s against Kareev. It's not been going well for him.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Something just to keep in mind, though, Volamel, you were really consistent in dropping teams that didn't make big changes in Season 1. You dropped Valiant to 11. You dropped Outlaws to 18.
Yep.
Where Valiant to 11 was probably one of the biggest ones, I think. Uprising went to 19 for you. Dynasty went to 7. So Yiska and I had Valiant at 7. You put him at 11. So, Matt, at least you're consistent here.
Yeah, I seriously do think that a lot of people are sleeping on the expansion teams, and we're completely rose tinted when we look at how successful some of the teams were.
It's hard to sleep on an expansion team when you just don't have a lot of information, right? Because there's just there's so much that changes once a team goes from contenders to Overwatch League. They're just at least I personally think that there is. So
definitely.
like
it depends how much value you put in experience as well. Like
sure,
there's so many theoretical ways in which that experience from 2018 could come in handy.
Definitely.
But is it actually going to make a difference in practice? Like there are teams that made a ton of mistakes in how they ran their team, how they signed people, how they ran the bench in 2018. And in theory, if you fix those mistakes in 2019 and all the expansion teams run into the same mistakes, then at some point in the season, you're going to have a big advantage. That doesn't mean in the day-to-day you're like literally going to be better. It just means that you won't run into as many roadblocks and potential internal conflicts and hurdles and stuff. So like maybe it'll even itself out over the course. I think it's an ongoing experiment that I don't think anybody really has the answer to at the moment. Like how much does that experience matter, and will the expansion teams de facto be worse?
When we're doing Season 3, hopefully we'll have a better idea of how to gauge experience, right? Because we've had a season.
Even then, like I think you're going to see a big influx of like young talent that everybody's going to want to scramble for. You look at players like Shy, like Leave, you Glister, there's a lot of just sick talent out there that's going to become of age. Who Are You, I think, comes of age Season 3 or even late season. Yes, like big names. And we're going to have to revisit this again. How good is experience versus absolute world beater talent that just hasn't been able to play at the top level just yet because of their age? I don't think this will ever be solved, honestly. I don't think we'll ever know how good experience is because you're always going to have that feeder system of talent. Maybe, I don't know. I guess that's a little bit too strong to say that we always will. But at least for Season 3, I think we're going to have to revisit that again and really see how experience matters versus just raw talented players.
So after Valiant Spark, we've got Titans Dragons, then we go on to Sunday. So Saturday, I'm not super hyped.
Just
I might
completely
sleep in.
glossed over.
I'm sleeping in on Saturday, but Sunday I'm waking up early. We've got Outlaws versus Uprising. This is I personally feel like this is going to be interesting. Color Hex out 2 games for boosting.
Yeah.
So interesting. Sideshow, who do you have taking this one?
Outlaws against Uprising. I don't have a clue. I think some of it's. I think it comes down to what Boston have done in their previous match. Like they're playing against NYXL, so are they even going to show what they're going to do? Who knows? But there has to be some semblance of a plan for me to have any shred of faith in Boston to be able to take this. Because for starters, presumably they're going to be working with Axiom, so we need to find out like how good is Axiom, how well does he work with the team. What the hell are they doing when Color Hex isn't playing with them? Because that's super important for this game, because this is the game that they should reasonably be looking at and being like, we could win this if we had Color Hex. So let's put a plan in place so that we actually don't just de facto drop this game. But presumably they're doing most of their scrimming with Color Hex as well, because you don't want to be scrimming like all of your prep with a guy that's only reasonably going to help you get one match win, and then you just straight back to like base level with Color Hex. So they're in a very odd position that I wouldn't wish on anybody. So I think just based on that, you have to give it to the Houston Outlaws. I think that I don't know how good Houston are going to be either. It's going to be very interesting to see whether that team's fallen behind the pack massively with everybody else. But Boston just have so many issues with this Color Hex thing that I just can't understand how they're going to figure out. That I can't reasonably give them the win.
Yeah, color Hex for me is one of the few really strong silver linings for being optimistic about Boston in season 2 with the roster that we see right now. Gamsu,
he looks all right.
Yeah, Gamsu is actually one of those two, but without Color Hex in this, I don't think Gamsu is a big deal for Boston. It's my understanding that he hasn't been scrimming with them for a while, anyways. So it's not
that would
like
make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like, we just lost our tank. We're what are we gonna do? Kind of thing. I
mean, that would be too stupid even for Boston, wouldn't it? Like
even for
like,
Boston.
Oh, what's that? You want Gamsu? Yeah, sure.
So
off you go.
Yeah, but it's also from what I've heard from, and again, scrims, lull kind of thing, is that Boston has just not been able to put it together in scrims, and there's a level, right? So scrims are not serious, but they're also serious. Like there's kind of a level of, you can tell when the other team is trying, when the other team is, kind of working out strats and different things that might not give you the end result of the scrim is different than what was gotten out of the scrim. And from what I've been told, Boston just hasn't been doing that great, and for multiple teams. And so I just kind of like, man, I want to be optimistic about Boston. I want to do it, and it just can't do it. I've got.
Do you know
Outlaws
what's going to be the worst part?
70-30.
70-30. Okay.
70-30.
70-30 for sure.
That's yeah. Do you know what the worst part of this entire thing is going to be? The worst part, just by far, just utterly, it's going to make me sick to my stomach, is if
Boston's going to go 2-0 in the first week.
If Outlaws are 2-0 by the end of the first week after facing 2 teams that have had really key players suspended, like Neko for the Toronto Defiant, they could reasonably take that win, and then Boston here as well. The smugness of the Outlaws fans is just I'm gonna have to turn off my PC and live like a recluse for the rest of the stage. It's gonna feel like filth on my skin.
Imagine if Boston goes 2-0 in the first week.
If they trump New York Excelsior, I think I'm throwing my power rankings out. Like I'm retiring. I don't know how to feel about that if that happens.
In all seriousness, though, Outlaws, like what I said at the beginning of this podcast, where you really have to think about strength of schedule. Outlaws have got a great schedule in week 1.
Yes.
Like these are the perfect times. I said when I was doing the keys to victory stuff that Outlaws really have to rely on their experience and like coming out the gate super fast. They have to really work on like that pre-existing team chemistry that they have and the experience from 2018 to come out of the gate faster than all of these expansion teams. And the fact that they're playing against an expansion team and then Boston, just straight away in a meta that shouldn't be too bad for them, but also they've got main players suspended. I mean, this is the perfect beginning to the season for the Houston Outlaws, and it gives them a good opportunity to like get their season started, get some morale, get things moving, maybe be able to make like that run for playoffs or something like that. So positives definitely if you're an Outlaws fan. I don't really hate you.
Outlaws, basically for me, Outlaws have to beat every team they're supposed to beat and beat the 45-55s, right? Those teams where it's like, you're a little bit unfavored, but you know, if A, B, and C goes right, they can do it. They got to win those games. They just have to.
Yeah, for the record, their schedule is Toronto, Boston, Hangzhou, New York, Florida, Valiant, Atlanta.
It's not a bad stage one.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of teams I would not like. I'm glad I'm not playing if that's my schedule.
Like rough matchup versus New York. I still I want to see how strong Spark is. I still think that's a gimme for Spark. How do they fare against Florida?
Yep, Florida. I mean, another one of those. Yeah, teams.
That's going to be an interesting one. I mean, I think it should be an Outlaws victory, but it could be losable for them. Yeah.
It's that one's as close as 50-50. Like that's a 55-45 game for me. I don't even know which way I'm going yet, but.
So after Outlaws Uprising, we've got Fusion Rain. I'm excited about that one, but we're not going to go in depth because then we've got Shock Gladiators. I'm excited about this one.
The crispy logos.
I'm excited about this one. I've got my lucky coin here to flip. When we go to this one, man, I don't even know. Violet's still out. This is the second game that they're out for boosting. So, man, Joe, I'm gonna let you go first, man. Go. Who you got here?
I'm gonna stick to my system and like my kind of formula for at least this stage, and I think this is close for sure, but I think this is a shock win. I think this is like a 58 shock win.
Oh dang! By the way, Ripa is also out for 5 games.
That's fine.
And Decay's not in yet, right? Like
yes,
it's still not past the 27th. So
yep.
Decay's still not in. I think Gladiators could have a really rough start to the season. I'm looking at their strength of schedule right now, and it's
hard.
It's all losable games for them, honestly. In stage 1, like until Decay comes into the lineup, they've got Seoul, Shock, and then Paris. I think even that game against Paris, like even with me, who's not like as high on Paris, I definitely think that's a losable game for them when they don't have Decay in there, and presumably they've been practicing with him because he's going to be a part of the part of what they're playing the rest of the 25 games with. So, I think we could see a world in which Gladiators, despite the fact that everyone's rating them highly, go 0-5. I mean, who are they playing as their 6th game? I can only see the top 5 on Overwatch.gg. Fix your site.
So it's Seoul, Shock, Paris, London, Spark, Atlanta, Charge.
Atlanta, yeah. I mean,
Atlanta could be tough. I think Charge. I'm still kind of just out. It should be a gimme. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, they're underrated." I don't see it. I don't see any evidence to point towards them being underrated. Could be wrong though. But yeah, I think the Charge is a gimme. Everything else though is completely in yellow. I don't know where to go with it. Could be either way.
I'm going to tangent us for a second, but the Blizzard Activision earnings call is going on right now, and Activision confirms they're going to do a city-based franchise league for Call of Duty. So,
cool.
There we go.
Solid. No one saw that coming.
I know, right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, for this one, I literally, for my analysis, this is coin flip. I think without Decay though, I think I might give the nod to Shock.
I think this is also one of those games where you get to see both of these teams play earlier in the week, so you can see what kind of level they're at.
Yeah.
And I would initially give it like a 60-40 towards the San Francisco Shock, but similar to the game against the Dallas Fuel, I think it's Shock's game to lose. But there's definitely things that can come back and bite them there, and certainly the tank line is something that I'm going to be looking at particularly, and seeing what Super or Smurf are like when they're playing that role. It's pretty crucial. But I don't imagine it'll go too badly wrong because they've got such a great support staff around them. But yeah, certainly question marks. But some of the questions we should have some idea of by the time we get to this game.
So we're going long. So let's go to our last one for the whole week. Dynasty versus Fuel. The old
That's a doozy.
The old
razzle dazzle.
East versus West here back in the day. Anyway, this is what people would pay the big money for. Envious versus Lunatic High. That's right. That's what these teams are, right? They haven't changed at all. They're just exactly the same as they always were. But
pretty much, yep, that's it.
That's about it. Josh, who have you got here, man?
Am I right in saying that the Dallas Fuel people have never beaten the Lunatic High people? I think that might be true.
Wow.
I think that might be something for other people to look up. That might be bullshit based on the GC Busan people, because like I thought the way that it went was the Fuel people had never beaten the Seoul people, and the Seoul people had never beaten the London people. You know, like the GC Busan.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure that that's the case.
Lunatic High Apex Season 1, 3-1 over Envy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering whether they played them in Stage 4. Anyway, that's a narrative point, right? It doesn't actually play into the analysis.
Yeah,
but
it's nothing.
I think that Seoul should be favored.
Yeah.
I think Seoul should be like the slightly better team. Again, we'll have to see. There's so many question marks about both of these teams. They could implode. So I want to see them earlier on in the week and see what they're looking like then. But my gut feeling is that Seoul are going to look a little bit stronger than Dallas.
I've got it 63, 37.
Which way?
63.5. I'll tell you.
Seoul?
I'll tell you after the match. Yep.
Okay.
For Seoul. Yeah, for Seoul. And do.
Yeah, so it looks like, try to do my research for me. It looks like, yeah, that's true, that the envious Dallas guys have never beaten the Seoul Lunatic High guys, and the Seoul Lunatic High guys have never beaten the GC Busan London guys.
Yes.
So a crazy little ladder there, like a built tier system. So if the Fuel are able to win, it could be historic days for them. The West are finally better than Korea. Booyah!
I think without seeing the rest of the week, I do think it's like a 60-40 Seoul. But Fuel could surprise. That could easily change, seeing, how good Seoul is, how good Fuel is. Teams have been apparently surprising behind closed doors with how quickly they are picking up, this, goats and whatever, Winston goats, whatever you want to call it. So it's possible. There's definitely some wiggle room there that it could change very quickly. But without seeing the rest of the week's matches, I think Seoul has an edge.
Yeah, I think it's more than an edge personally, but I don't know. We'll have to see. And again, this is all still like, what is on paper from last season and like tier 2 and show matches, and what is like, how should it be? It's going to be really interesting. And I think we're going to know really quick how off our rankings were. By the end of week 1, we'll just be like, there it goes.
Also, there's some teams that are going to come out really slow and hopefully should peak throughout the season. So just because the rankings are off at the beginning doesn't mean they are necessarily off at the end. We'll have to check back in towards the end of the season.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I can't wait to go back and listen to these episodes, unless I'm really wrong, and then I'm gonna delete them all.
Delete the VOD quick.
Yeah, delete it. Or I'm just gonna start recording alternate versions and then like replacing them on the RSS feed.
Can you just dub over them?
No.
Like, I really love Boston Uprising.
I don't think
they are my favorite team.
I don't think Boston could lose this season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, might be rough. All right, that was fun though. Good show. Lots going on this week. Overwatch League Season 2, we're finally here. Feels good to be here.
Strangely enough, yeah.
A little bit too long of an off season for me. Let's just be real.
People are going crazy.
Yeah, and I don't really know what to attribute that to. If the off season is too long, if Contenders isn't exciting enough, or like if there's enough fanfare around Contenders that would like sate that a little bit.
I think it's going to be like way more exciting next year because they've got the showdowns and the gauntlet and stuff like that. So it'll be more like a tournament for someone to tune into that has like hype around it. It'll be more like a World Cup kind of thing. So I don't think it'll feel as long the second time. Also, I don't even know whether it's going to be the same length next time. Who knows?
We're going from 40 to 28 to 12 games a year. No, just kidding. I mean, like next season, supposedly we're going to be in
supposed to be traveling.
Yeah, we're going to be traveling. Going to be in our cities. Going to be doing that. I didn't even look at the homestand stuff. When does that happen? That doesn't happen in stage 1 at all, does it?
Oh,
yeah,
like
I think there's one in stage 1.
Oh, really? I don't know. I haven't looked.
Is the Dallas one in stage 1? I wonder how that'll affect it.
Maybe it's stage 2. I'm not sure. Maybe it's like week 4, stage 2 or something.
Chat saying only stages 2, 3,
Dallas
and 4.
Is 2, stages 2, 3, 4. April 27 was the first one. Dallas.
Fair enough.
All right, chat. You guys are good. You can all come on the show next week.
They know more than we do.
Emailed sideshowdoesgaming@gmail.com.
Does gaming
with your social security
that's
number.
Volamel's email account.
I know.
I don't know why.
That's how I met him online. All right, let's go ahead. We need to get out of here. That's enough. I think that's enough. Josh, thanks for hanging out with us, man. I mean, I'm bummed we're not going to see you right away for Overwatch League in season 2, but safe travels-ish.
I'll be flooding your social media timelines with all of my junk opinions, so you won't be able to avoid me even then.
I'm gonna come up with like a After Effects template that like edits you into the desk. We'll just pause the desk. And you can do your
I just
thing.
want them to break out the iPad and just set them there and just let it rock. Skype's a thing, guys.
Have you ever seen Toy Story where there's that weird guy that puts the heads of people on the other toys' bodies?
Yeah.
His name's Sid.
Sid. Yeah, I'm just imagining if Sid got After Effects and he's just screwing me onto Zoe's body and plonking me down at the desk. That is the fuel of nightmares. I'm just gonna leave you all with that image.
Interesting. Toy Story. I'll have to look up that movie. Never heard of it, by the way. Brand new one. Brand new. They're coming out with 4, right? That's a thing.
I guess, yeah.
They should stop.
Yeah, just
we've already got that live action Aladdin with the weird Will Smith genie thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm excited about Will Smith as genie. I am. I think he's going to do a great job. But
sure, it's just weird,
The CGI
it's not
was
Robin
not great.
Williams. It looks weird. Like
it was the CGI. I don't even blame.
Yes,
it's not. It's Heath Ledger's playing the Joker, and Joker's an iconic role because Jack Nicholson did it, and whatever. I get it, but I'm just like, it just looks bad. That's all. Just didn't look very good. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Sideshow, what do you got coming up this week? Anything that people need to be paying attention to? Going to be posting?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow my YouTube, youtube.com/sideshow1994, because that was the year of my birth. And you can find all of my videos that I'm putting up there. Tomorrow, there's one about... which one is going on tomorrow? Well, today there was one about Seoul, tomorrow about Boston, the day after that, one about the San Francisco Shock, something about coaches, the day after that, Shanghai Dragons, the day after that. I got a schedule, I got videos, I got thoughts. Gonna be battering you with them.
Yeah. How are you going to shower for those? Do you need to go on like a show every morning, or you just
better moisturize? Your skin's gonna be so dry with all the showering you're doing, dude.
It's gonna be so dry, so dry. That's how I like it. I can set fire to it.
Just an alligator need to shred.
Oh God, no God. What about you, Joe? I know you've got a lot of stuff coming up too.
It's kind of fly by night with me. Spent all of last night. I think I've slept like 3 hours. I'm gonna try and catch a quick nap before another podcast tonight. But I think I'm gonna do some narrative stuff around the Spark, kind of contextualize some of their players. For those of you who don't know, No Smite has a pocket Junkrat. Fun fact.
Everybody has a pocket Junkrat. Everybody.
Yeah, but did they beat Team Envious with it though? Just saying. Spark coming in hot with the quad DPS strats. Their main tank goes Junkrat, calling it out. Call me the prophet.
All right. I guess that's where I want to end the show.
There you go.
I'm done. I'm just done. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for all the support on stream. Thank you to the new subs and follows. We'll be right back after the song. Say hi to you guys. Make sure to sub, follow, do all that good stuff. Listen to the show. Tell your friends. Tell your mom. You need to call her anyway.